Is Bubba Wallace's future at 23XI Racing already in trouble? One qualifying crash at Sonoma Raceway has sent NASCAR's rumor mill into overdrive, and the answer is more complicated than anyone expected. Before this weekend, nothing about Bubba Wallace's season suggested a driver on the verge of losing his ride. Just 7 days earlier, at Naval Base Coronado on June 21st, he delivered one of the most talked-about drives of his career. The number 23 Toyota fell, 2 full laps behind the leaders after a loose wheel, and 2 crew members were suspended by NASCAR for the violation. Instead of fading, Bubba Wallace fought back through the field and crossed the finish line in second place, his best result ever on a street course. Reflecting on that race afterward, Bubba Wallace admitted the outcome still left him unsatisfied, saying, "It's what if. Tired of living in that." He also spoke candidly about the mistake that cost him track position, saying, "Drive your ass off on a track that you have no idea what you're doing. Drive up to lead, then have it all taken away from you." The week before Coronado, Bubba Wallace had finished third at Michigan, giving him back-to-back top 5 finishes. Those results pushed him to 11th in the championship standings, squarely inside the playoff picture. Heading into Sonoma, the story surrounding Bubba Wallace was one of momentum, not crisis. Then, Sonoma happened. Bubba Wallace was placed in Group 2 for qualifying at Sonoma Raceway. His first lap produced a time of 1 minute, 15.887 seconds, briefly placing him provisionally inside the top 10. The speed was real, and it gave the 23 team genuine confidence heading into his final attempt. Pushing harder on his second lap, Bubba Wallace ran slightly wide exiting turn 9, and the left rear tire of his Toyota dropped into the gravel runoff area. Grip disappeared instantly. The car spun 180 degrees and slammed nose first into the safer barrier positioned between turns 9 and 10. Bubba Wallace climbed out of the car under his own power, but the Toyota could not continue. The front-end damage was extensive, and under NASCAR rules, unapproved repairs meant starting from the rear of the 36 car field. This was not a minor setback. Sonoma Raceway is statistically one of the hardest tracks in the NASCAR Cup Series to pass on, meaning the consequences of this crash would follow Bubba Wallace through the entire race. NASCAR on Fox stated plainly that pressure had increased for Bubba Wallace, since starting at the rear at Sonoma meant strategy, patience, and clean execution would decide whether this became another comeback story. The timing of this crash mattered as much as the crash itself. This was not the first time a road course had worked against Bubba Wallace. Across 37 career NASCAR Cup Series road course starts, his average finish sits at 21.8. That number is worse than his average finish of 19.8 on 1 to 2 mile ovals, and worse still than his overall career average finish of 19.5 across 308 career starts. Road courses remain statistically his weakest surface, and the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule includes only 4 of them. That scarcity raises the stakes of every road course event, since there is very little room left to recover lost ground on a surface where Bubba Wallace already struggles more than anywhere else on the schedule. The speculation did not wait long to begin. Within roughly an hour of the crash, conversation was already spreading across social media, where NASCAR's silly season conversations tend to live in the space between official team announcements. Fans and analysts began linking separate events into a single narrative. One difficult week became 2 consecutive difficult weeks. 2 difficult weeks became, in the eyes of many observers, a pattern worth watching. Online commentary framed the situation around a simple idea, stating that elite organizations expect elite consistency, and that every time Tyler Reddick runs near the front, the spotlight on Bubba Wallace grows brighter by comparison. Other commentary argued that consecutive difficult weekends create narratives much faster than any actual roster changes, and that Sonoma did not create the pressure surrounding Bubba Wallace so much as it exposed how much pressure already existed within the organization. Veteran NASCAR reporter Jeff Gluck offered a more measured view, noting how interesting it was that one qualifying incident had instantly turned into silly season speculation, and adding that until there was actual evidence, it remained speculation rather than a contract story. That pressure traces back to how 23XI Racing was built. The team was founded by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, with a clear vision from the very beginning, one built around championships, superstar drivers, and long-term dominance, not mediocrity. Tyler Reddick has largely delivered on that standard throughout 2026, with race wins, championship-caliber speed, and consistent front-running results. Notably, Tyler Reddick also endured his own difficult moment at Coronado, where he publicly accepted responsibility for late race mistakes. Yet his performance recovered quickly, without the narrative collapsing around him the way it has around Bubba Wallace. Analyst Jordan Bianchi framed the contrast precisely, noting that the conversation around Bubba Wallace is not only about results anymore, since expectations at 23XI have become just as big as the performances themselves. Part of the answer involves the scale of expectations surrounding Bubba Wallace specifically. He remains the only black driver competing full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he is widely recognized as one of the sport's most visible personalities and biggest marketing figures. Television cameras and media coverage tend to follow him more closely than almost anyone else in the field, meaning mistakes involving his car often become headlines, while similar incidents involving other drivers disappear within a single news cycle. At the same time, commercial investment in Bubba Wallace has not slowed down at all. On June 25th, Upper Deck announced a special Space Jam-themed paint scheme for the number 23 Toyota, set to debut at Chicagoland Speedway on July 5th, marking the 30th anniversary of the film. The design features Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck on the hood, along with a matching helmet and fire suit for Bubba Wallace. Jason Mashara, president of Upper Deck, described the collaboration as a massive celebration of fandom, adding that Space Jam is an iconic movie that spans multiple generations. Steve Lauletta, president of 23XI Racing, said the partnership allows the team to reach both current and new audiences. A sponsor investing in a themed paint scheme built around a major anniversary campaign is not typically a signal associated with a team preparing to part ways with a driver. Reaction across the sport reflected this divide clearly. Some observers argued the speculation was overblown, pointing out that Bubba Wallace had finished second only 1 week earlier, and that one crash should not suddenly erase everything he has built this season. Others pushed back on that framing entirely, asking where the actual evidence was, and noting that fans were simply connecting dots that do not officially exist. Still others argued, the truth sits somewhere in between, since Bubba Wallace's value to 23XI Racing has never rested purely on statistics. Leadership, sponsors, visibility, and performance all factor into the equation, which is part of why this story became bigger than a single crash. Amid the noise, the responses from within 23XI Racing were notable mainly for what they did not say. The team's official account posted a statement acknowledging the setback, saying, "Tough break in qualifying, but we've overcome adversity before." The statement continued by noting that the team would get the number 23 ready and fight from the back of the field the next day, adding that that's what this group does. Denny Hamlin offered a similarly forward-focused response, writing that one qualifying crash does not define a season and encouraging the team to keep their heads down, fix the car, execute the strategy, and go race. Tyler Reddick added his own perspective, stating that road courses punish every mistake and that Bubba Wallace had shown speed all weekend, meaning the following day would be about maximizing every lap and staying in the fight. None of those statements addressed the future. None of them referenced a contract. None of them stated that 23XI Racing remained committed to Bubba Wallace over the long term. Each response focused specifically on the crash and on Sunday's race, leaving any broader question about the future completely untouched. In a sport where organizations often use public statements to reinforce long-term commitments to their drivers, the absence of that language did not go unnoticed by those following the situation closely, since in NASCAR, what organizations choose not to say is sometimes louder than what they do. As of now, the confirmed facts remain limited. Bubba Wallace is still a driver for 23XI Racing. He remains within the provisional playoff picture based on his position in the standings. No contract dispute has been confirmed by either the team or the driver, and no departure has been announced through any official channel. The number 23 Toyota took the green flag at Sonoma from the rear of the field, facing the difficult task of working through traffic on a track where passing opportunities are extremely limited. NASCAR reporter Bob Pockrass framed the situation precisely, stating that the crash changed Bubba Wallace's starting position, not necessarily his playoff outlook, and that the bigger question was whether 23XI Racing could recover on a track where passing is notoriously difficult. Bubba Wallace was not the only driver forced to start from the rear at Sonoma. Eric Jones and Noah Gragson also dropped to the back of the field after unapproved adjustments and repairs were made to their own cars, meaning the number 23 Toyota was not alone in facing a difficult recovery mission that day. Ty Gibbs claimed the pole position for the race, with a lap of 1 minute 14.829 seconds, with Carson Hocevar, Kyle Larson, Michael McDowell, and Ross Chastain rounding out the top 5 starting positions. For Bubba Wallace and 23XI Racing, Sunday's race became a recovery mission from the very start, one that required working through traffic from the opening laps while relying heavily on pit strategy to gain positions across a full 110 laps. Bubba Wallace has answered questions about his ability to bounce back before. His performance at Naval Base Coronado demonstrated that he can produce strong results even after setbacks that would derail most competitors. He turned that weekend into a career-defining moment when many people expected him to disappear into chaos, and he has already proven capable of doing it again under pressure. What remains unresolved is not whether Bubba Wallace can recover from a difficult weekend, since his own record already answers that question clearly and repeatedly. The unresolved question is whether recovering from setbacks continues to be enough for an organization that was built from its founding around the expectation of championships, not merely competitive results. That question was not answered at Sonoma Raceway, and based on how the sport's attention has responded to this situation, it is unlikely to fade quietly in the weeks ahead. It will only follow Bubba Wallace and 23XI Racing into every race that comes next.